Welcome back, YouTubers. This is a review of the Power Rangers Ninja Storm Morphers. Now, Ninja Storm was the first series solely produced by Disney. And, oh boy, did they go nuts on the toys. They produced toy after toy for that one. So, I don't know how much of that was Bandai and how much of that was Disney, but you could see it at the end of Wild Force, but they really went nuts on it in this season. Fortunately, though, the ones that you really need to get if you're a collector are the Morphers and the Zords. The rest of the stuff is pretty missable. But fortunately, this was also during the time when Bandai was still using the Japanese molds to make this stuff. So, without further ado, we'll start with the Samurai Morpher. Now, this was for their 6th Ranger, and unfortunately it's got the least amount of function. There's a little button here that if you tap it, it makes, say, an alert sound. Then you can push this button here. Aside from that, it opens up. There's the power disc inside, which you can swap out for this one, though they never really did that in the show. And if you press the button again, it will turn it off. Which is a nice feature. I am really in favor of things that can be turned off by pressing it a second time. Now, fortunately, this Morpher was the last one I needed. I got a good deal, though the person who sold it to me failed to mention they had left the batteries in, and there's a bit of corrosion on it. As such, it makes it a little trickier to get it to work sometimes because the power supply to the batteries is not... what's the right word? It's not a good connection. The corrosion makes the battery connection intermittent at times, which is a bit of a downer for me. But getting it was a big bonus to my collection, and it did finish off the 3rd series I had started collecting. The first one being Power Rangers Time Force, and the second being Wild Force, which I collected all the Morphers I really wanted. I skipped the badge from Power Rangers Time Force because it wasn't an actual Morpher. That was kind of a little rule I had. I didn't really collect things that weren't really Morphers or Battleizers. I counted those. Now, one thing you should know is the little power discs in these, there are other ones that were only in Japan, which had the little symbols on them for the weapons they would summon. But they never released those in the US. They're the same thing, so they're compatible with these. Now, the next one is the Thunder Morpher. You can take the horns off this one and swap this in, and this will open up and you can put the discs in, but unlike the other ones, this one doesn't spin. However, one interesting thing is, unlike the other 2 wrist strap Morphers, this one's strap is connected to the plate, as you can see. And it's also got the Thunderstorm Thunder symbol on it. Unlike the other ones, who have just the standard Ninja Storm symbol, which I don't know if is exclusive to them or not. Now, when you turn this on, it goes, and when you hit this, and then you do the morph. All in all, it has very little functionality, much like the Samurai Morpher. Unfortunately, that was the problem with a lot of these. Bandai would make the functionality either really good or really simple. And they would frequently do the same kinds of sound effects. There would be either the Morpher transformation, which was a random sound effect, didn't always match the show, which none of these have. Or it would be a communication sound or alert, which baffles me personally. because the Rangers did use these to communicate, but they never had just an alert button that they pressed on them to alert the others. Just kind of weird. Now, one thing I am disappointed about both the Wind Morpher, this one, as well as the Battleizer, which it's basically the same mold, is that unfortunately these ones do not have the battery plate connected to the wrist strap. Instead, you have to either pull out the strap a bit or pop it in, which is what I'm doing right now. Now, when you turn it on, it does the same sound as the Thunder Morpher. You spin this, it does nothing. Your standard alert sound. Then you've got this. In the show it was firing lasers, but in the Japanese it was shurikens. It'll keep doing that until you press one of the other two buttons. This will just deactivate the spin function. But this one, the morph, and there is an LED here. But if you spin it again, it does nothing. You have to hit the morph button again. And that's really all it does. So it is a little disappointing in that it doesn't do a terribly large amount. The one nice thing is that it comes with all three power discs, and as I said, these can be swapped out and put in here, just like the Thunder one. The Thunder one comes with with two, the Navy and Crimson, and the two different horns. But unfortunately, the Samurai also only comes with two and has the least functionality. So this was during the time when Bandai was starting to put less into these, in my opinion. The sound effects are even pretty similar or exactly the same. Now, those were the Morphers, but there was still a Battleizer this season. Shane gets it from some alien girl he had met when he was a kid. Weird coincidence, notwithstanding. But she gives him basically the power of her life to become the Battleized Ranger. Now, this one has the alert sound. And then the morph. Again, not really that impressive. The one really nice thing about this Morphers is that you've got the interchangeable discs, and if you had all of them, you would have 9 discs total. But the functionality of these is really very limited. They're good substitutes if you don't have the Japanese ones, but if you're a Sentai fan, I'd see if you can get your hands on the Japanese ones. The one thing that I kind of wish they had was some functionality with the discs, like they would change it. But then again, I'm spoiled by modern Japanese toys, so that's just me being wishful thinking. If they did some sort of revival one, I kind of wish that the discs would trigger some feature, but even the Power Rangers Legacy Morpher didn't have that function. Either way, this line was pretty good. The straps are a little on the small side for someone with bigger wrists, but they just are barely big enough to fit mine. And all in all, it's a good series. Aside from their lack of functionality, for how much they were, which was usually about $10 at Walmart, it's a pretty good deal for them. Overall, if you can pick one up not too expensively, I'd recommend getting them. They're a nice little piece. The one thing to keep in mind is this kind of gold paint will chip like nobody's business. So make sure you get a good look at them and you make sure they're in good shape. Plus, make sure they have all their discs. This one had these 3. This one had these 2. This one had these 2. And this one had these 2. One thing I ran into quite often when I was trying to find some of these on eBay was people had mixed up the discs and didn't know what they actually came with. So just as a friendly thing to look out for, make sure that they haven't screwed up which discs come with it. Otherwise, you're going to be looking for those separately, and that might be harder to find. Either way, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Share this video with your friends, and chat with me on Twitter and tell me what you think. I'll see you all next time. Ciao.